fans, I'm Blair Henley and welcome to Tennis Now Instructionals powered by the Gamma Razor Challenge Sweepstakes. Today we're going to be talking about the serve toss. And some of you are thinking, serve toss is so easy, I don't understand why people have trouble with it, in which case this is probably not the video for you. And some of you are thinking, the toss is the bane of my tennis existence, in which case you've come to the right place. So I'm just going to go over a few tips and easy fixes to make sure your toss doesn't look like this. First, I want to ingrain one major concept in your mind, and that's don't hit it unless you love it, which works in real life too, and you get that advice for free. But seriously, if you're out on the court, the toss is the only thing you can do over and over and over again until you get it right, so I figure you might as well take advantage. So what are we going to do to get that ball toss that we love? Let's start with ball positioning. I want to be tossing it slightly out in front and slightly to my dominant side, so for me, slightly out in front and slightly to my right.
Do you know a man by the name of Lafong? Carl Lafong. Capital L, small a. Capital F, small o, small n, small g. Lafong. Carl Lafong.
No, I don't know Carl Lafong. Capital L, small a. Capital F, small o, small n, small g. And if I did know Carl Lafong, I wouldn't admit it.
I also want to make sure I'm tossing it high enough so that I can really load up and push up to the very top of the toss. And notice, I'm not over here, I'm not behind me, I'm not collapsing down on the ball. I have a really good stretch in my left side.
You know, there's something awfully big about you.
Thank you, dear. Thank you, dear. Thank you.
Your nose.
Something awfully big about you, too. I was in love with a beautiful blonde once, dear. She drove me to drink. That's the one thing I'm indebted to her for.
A drill to practice this would be to put a racket down on the court in front of you. Again, for me, right where I want my ball toss to land, which is slightly out in front, slightly to my right. See if you can toss it up and then get it to land right in the strings. Not an easy drill, but if you do go out and practice it, make sure you're using your backswing as well. Sometimes I see people go out and they just do this over and over and over again, which is great until you try to put all the moving parts together, which makes it a little tougher.
You won't take old Balto, my lead dog.
Why not, Paul?
'Cause I ate him.
You ate him?
He was mighty good with mustard.
Next point I want to make is thinking about your hinges, which sounds a little strange, but hear me out. So if this is my arm here, I have a hinge at my shoulder, at my elbow, at my wrist, and then where my fingers are right here. I want to make sure I'm only using one of those hinges, and that's my shoulder. So you see I'm just guiding that ball straight up, just like that. So instead of using my elbow or tossing it back with my wrist or fingers, I'm keeping it simple, just with my shoulder.
Swap Mulligan tells me you buried your wife several years ago.
Oh, yes, I had to. She died. Have you any last wish? Yes, I'd like to see Paris before I die. Philadelphia will do.
You see it one more time, just using that shoulder.
She wouldn't be out if she wasn't ashamed of her home, ashamed of you.
Me?
Look at you. Suppose she were entertaining a nice young man in her home and you came in looking like that, with your shoes off, your suspenders down, and your breath smelling of cheap liquor.
Cheap. $4 a gallon.
So if you're still having trouble after you've tried these things, you can always give a shot to holding the ball almost like an ice cream cone. What that does is it takes your fingers and your wrist out of it. So super simple, just like that.
Well, if you're going to talk about a weapon, Stefan Edberg possesses one of the deadliest serves in the game. And here's a great shot of that accentuated backhand grip, which produces all that spin that Stefan Edberg uses on his serve. The great knee bend, the athletic grace, and that power, the snap that he puts into that serve. All right, let's take a look at the first and second serve of Stefan Edberg. Here he tosses the ball pretty much directly over his head. Notice the pronounced knee bend. That's where he generates all of that power. And on the second serve, he's going to toss the ball slightly a little bit more behind his head. That's why he gets a little bit more spin and topspin on the serve, and it's a safer second serve. Now on the first serve, he'll flatten out his wrist so he can hit a flatter, harder serve. And on the second serve, he gets up and he comes from behind his head a little bit more, produces a little bit more spin, and it's a safer, more effective second serve.
Vide totale verrà. Vide totale verrà. Vide totale verrà. Vide totale verrà.